So let's take a look at 6 real-world examples of where, why, and when you may want to use custom post types alongside custom meta fields. Now I'm going to be using Advanced Custom Fields Pro for this particular video, but you can use whatever tool you're happy with, whether that's MetaBox, ACF, ACF Pro, and so on. Some of the features may be only available in Pro versions. You'd have to take a look at your particular use case and your particular tool set. Okay, so let's take a look at the first one, starting off with a relatively simple example. We'll build our way up to more complex examples as we go through. Now, one area that's very commonly used on websites are testimonials. And this is something that A, you want to change regularly, but B, you don't really want to have to get into the design to make changes to that content. So it makes much more sense to be able to use dynamic content alongside custom post types to be able to create and add these in. So this testimonial is broken down into various different components. We've got the heading, we've got the testimonial itself, the photograph of the person that actually wrote the testimonial, their name, and their role. Now, this could be whatever you want. You can expand upon this, make it simple, whatever. So all I've done is I've created a simple custom post type using ACF, created a couple of fields, and I can use this now to create my testimonials. Let's open one up and take a quick look. So if we open this one, you can see we've got some basic standard content that we use as part of normal WordPress. So you've got the title, the content, the featured image, and so on. We've also got some additional fields underneath for the author name and also the author position. But this, again, can be expanded to whatever you want. So all we're realistically doing is we're creating a couple of additional fields and tagging those to a custom post type. If we jump over into ACF, you can see I've got a custom post type, and we've also got a field group associated with that, which is your testimonial fields. Again, if we open this up, you can see there's our 2 fields, the author name and position, and this is then literally just being linked to the post type of testimonials. That's all there is to it. And then you can use whatever tools you want. In my case, I've used Bricks, but you could use Elementor, you can use Generate Blocks. Anything that allows you to pull in dynamic data can easily be used then to pull that information in, and then you can use it in various different ways. You could have a loop set up, you could have it randomized, so many different use cases. Now, another area that I think is invaluable and should be part of everybody's blueprint website is company details. Now, what exactly does this mean and why would you want to use it? Well, there's lots of repetitive information used throughout a typical website. Things like the address, company name, email, phone number, and so on. They could be in the header, the footer, the contact page, on all manner of different locations. So having that in one centralized location inside the dashboard that can easily be changed is very, very useful. But it can go so much further. But let's start with the basics. So I've used ACF Pro's options page feature. Again, this is a pro feature in ACF, but take a look at the other tools. You may have similar functions included for free. Inside here, if we open this up, so this is just a placeholder for the actual content you want to put inside your options page. In the same way that you set up custom post types and you link meta fields to it, we do the same with options pages. So we go into our field groups. I've got company details fields. Let's open this and you can see I've got the basic things like company name, address, email, phone, and so on. So if we go into this section inside our website, you'll see inside there we've got some basic placeholders for the company name, address, email, and phone. Drop the information in there, and again, like I've said, using whatever you want, Elementor, Bricks, any of those tools, you can simply pull in that dynamic data into the relevant template, and then making changes inside this options page will be reflected throughout your entire site. It's a very quick and easy way of centralizing repetitive information. But you'll also notice we've got things like primary color, enable banner, and banner text. This is a really simple example of what you can do, but combining this with your templates and some conditional logic, you can really get quite creative. So let's take a look at our site if I enable this banner. We'll select it, set it to be enabled. I've already put my text in and we'll update it. Now if we come back to our site, you can see there's nothing appearing, but let's refresh the page. And you see now we've got this banner across the top that's all controlled inside that one centralized location for our company details. But you can set up, options pages for anything. But using the options page, some data inside there, some simple switches like we've seen, easily makes it easy to add in this kind of custom information that you want to populate throughout your template structure and enable it and disable it. Again, this is really useful if you're working with clients that have an online store, for example. They may have sales going on, where you can tag this in there. You don't need any additional software. You can simply use ACF, give them control over it, and let them change the text, the content, and enable and disable it as and when they wish. Take it one step further. Have it linked to a specific product. Have the ability to put a button inside there. Have that button link dynamically generated all inside the options page. There's so many ways in which you can use this. With a little imagination, it goes an awful long way. Now, speaking of online sales and having an online store, if you use WooCommerce, you can easily add in additional custom fields into your WooCommerce products. Again, let's take a look. I've got ACF and WooCommerce installed. If we come into our field groups, you'll see I've got this additional product fields. If we open this up and take a look, you can see I've got a couple of options inside your manufacturer, personalization, and so on. And all I've done is I've set this to be linked to the post type of products. So now wherever we use a WooCommerce product inside the admin section, we'll have these additional fields available to us. But you can get specific if you want to. You can only show information on specific product types. There's so many different ways you can use this kind of functionality. This is a simple example. But I've also set things up inside here. So we've got personalization and text color. Personalization, if you enable it, if you type something in, we want the text color to show then. But if there's nothing inside personalization, we don't want that to show up because it has no relevance. So what I've done is if we open this up, I've come into conditional logic, I've enabled it, and I've said personalization has any value. In other words, something is typed in. So with that enabled, let's come over to a product. We'll open up this cap. And you see all the normal fields inside here that we'd expect to see as part of WooCommerce. But if we scroll down, we've got the additional product fields, which is what we've created inside ACF. You'll notice we've got the manufacturer, which we can then select whatever we want from you. And again, you can use any combination of different sort of ACF meta field tools or whatever tools you use. So we'll leave that set as Adidas, for example, and then we've got the personalization. Now, you can see there's nothing inside here, so our colors don't show up. But once we type something in, now our colors show up and we can then personalize this and say exactly what we want. It's a very simple example, but you can again tie this then into the template that you create for your WooCommerce store, and it gives you more options. And you can get as creative as you want. You don't need to install half a dozen plugins to add extra features in. You can do a lot of it inside, using ACF or any kind of dynamic meta field tools that you want to use. Now, another great example is where you have people that work inside a company. And you may have them organized into different kinds of groups. Let me show you an example. You can see on this site that I'm working on, we've got dentists. If we scroll down underneath, we've then got team members that are in different kind of positions, and you may have additional roles again. So it makes sense in a scenario like this to use custom meta fields alongside a custom post type, and also custom taxonomy to allow you to group things together. Now, I've created a video on this for Bricks Builder, which I will link up in the corner now if you want to take a look at it. So if you want to see how to do these nested loops, it's very, very easy. Link is above. So let's take a look at how this is set up on the back end. So I've created a custom post type called team members. I've also created a custom taxonomy called team role. So if we open up the team role section, you can see we've got things like dental nurse, dentist, hygienist, and so on. Come back into all our team members. Let's open one of these up. And you can see inside here, because we've got this set up as a custom post type, we don't have any things like the custom content for written word and so on. We don't need it in this example. We've only got the title, we've got the featured image, we've got the custom ACF fields that we've associated with this custom post type for the job title and their GDC number, which is a unique number to them. We've also then got a link through to the team roles on the right-hand side, so our dental nurse, dentist, and so on. It's a little bit more of an advanced way of working, but again, it shows you how easy it is to set things up, and so many different ways. For example, you may want to use this with a bookstore, and you may want to have things set up through alphabetically. So you can have A, B, C, and so on. These would be the roles in this example, and then you'd have each of the individual books, which would be tied to that relevant letter. And then you could use that to order them by using that nested loop functionality. It's very powerful. Now, this final one is a really cool one. It allows you to sort of create templates that you enable and disable throughout certain parts of your design. Now, for this example, I'm using Generate Press and Generate Blocks. And Carl Van Dusen did a video on exactly how to set all of this up. So I'll link to his video in the details below so you can check out how it all works. But let me just demonstrate what's going on here. So you can see we've got this post. It's a standard post. And if we scroll on through, there's a nice dynamic CTA at the bottom. Now, you could set this up so this is available everywhere throughout your entire site, but that isn't always relevant. And you may want to change the content that's actually available inside there. A different title, different content, different link for the button, different button text, image, so on and so forth. So how can we do it? We can tie all this together using custom meta fields and custom post types. So if we jump back over into the dashboard of WordPress, let me just quickly show you what I've got set up. So we've got a custom taxonomy set up called post features, and this basically just links everything together. You can see we've got two terms associated with this. And if we open those terms up, you can see we've got one called dynamic CTA, call to action, and one called newsletter CTA. But you could create more if you wanted to and choose where and when you wanted to use them. Then I've created a couple of simple templates, our basic CTA and our dynamic CTA. Let's take a look at the dynamic one because there's more going on there, but they work in fundamentally the same way. So this is basically just a placeholder template which pulls in the title, the content, the button, and the button URL, an image, and whatever else you want to put inside there. And then it's just linked up to the post feature and dynamic CTA. So this is kind of connected to everything. Again, like I say, this is specific to generate blocks and generate press. And we've got this little dynamic code here. Again, watch Kyle's video on this because it goes into full detail how to set everything up here. So I'm just zooming through it really quickly. So with all that said and done, we've got things set up now. So our templates are in place. We told it where and when we want to sort of pull those in. And now if we go into one of our posts, you can see our post features is listed on the right-hand side. And inside there, there's our dynamic and our newsletter CTAs. You can see dynamic CTA is enabled. And with that enabled, we get these custom options underneath, which we can fill the information in. And that will populate that template I've just shown you. However, if we disable that, they all disappear because we're not referencing it. So it's switch on, they're available, switch off, they're not. Let's, in this example, choose the newsletter CTA. We'll update this. Jump over to our example. So you can see there's what we had previously. Nothing at the top. So now let's refresh this. Now there's our new call to action, which isn't a dynamic call to action. It's a standard one. This is our basic newsletter sign up. And if we scroll to the bottom, you can see our dynamic one is now disabled. If we jump back over and enable both of them and update, we'll refresh our page. And there's our dynamic one and our standard one. And if we come back in and we make any changes, so we'll just change this to something else and update, scroll down and refresh. You can see that updates in real time. So you can create these, link them into your template structure, use some conditional logic, and then just enable and disable them wherever you need to. And then you have a lot of really powerful flexibility using those templates. And again, while I'm using Generate Press and Generate Blocks for this example, you could easily use bricks and you could use Elementor, use some dynamic conditions for where and when these templates will and won't show up. It's all very, very powerful, but it opens up a real ton of possibilities for how you can take ACF, custom meta fields, custom post types, those types of tools, and use those in real world scenarios. Now, hopefully this has opened your eyes to some of the ways in which you can use custom post types, dynamic meta fields, and so on inside your templates, inside using conditional logic and so on to really open up a ton of interesting, exciting possibilities. Now, if you want to find out more, all the links are in the description. And if you want to check out my video on why you should use custom post types, I'll link that to you next.